Amigo, amiga de Rock FM, cuando uno echa la vista atrás y recuerda cómo comenzó en esto de la música, cómo se enamoró, cómo entró la música en mis venas, siempre me sale una banda. Esa banda era Queen. Hace nada tuvimos aquí, en una de las habitaciones VIP de RockFM Motel, al maestro Roger Taylor, maestro de la batería y por supuesto que una de las piezas fundamentales de Queen. Hoy me alegro de esos años atrás, de escuchar las canciones de Queen y de estar exactamente aquí, en el día exacto y la hora exacta. Hoy esa suerte de Roger Taylor que tuve hace unos días se multiplica por dos, ya que tenemos con nosotros al Dr. May, a Sir Brian May. Welcome to Rock FM, Brian.
Mucho gusto. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Es para nosotros también un placer y un lujo poder estar contigo justo cuando se reedita 24 años después tu segundo disco en solitario titulado Another Wall. Como ya ocurriera en la primera entrega, Back to the Light, nos encontramos con un tratamiento exquisito del disco que supuso para ti la confirmación definitiva de músico en solitario. ¿Qué recuerdos tienes de aquel año 1998? ¿Sientes y ves el álbum con la misma ilusión 24 años después?
Well, it's a good question. Yeah, I imagined that I was much older and much wiser now. So when I revisited this, it would all seem very clear and I would feel like I was an adult. But actually it didn't happen. I went back into this album and I felt exactly the same as I did all those years ago. Still very uncertain, still dealing with various kinds of pain and confusion, and it's quite ironic. I was dealing, of course, with life without Freddie, and during the course of this album I also had to deal with the loss of Cozy Powell, who was a very, very close friend of mine and such an inspiration. Now, all these years later, I'm looking at the man who played on Cyborg, Taylor Hawkins, who has also just gone. And it's a terrible loss. So this album for me is mixed. Some of it is beautiful and joyful and some of it is very sad. It's a whole mixture.
En esa época también conocimos a tu alter ego de Conway y a ese EP de coleccionista llamado Reto Rock Special, ¿no? In this,
yes, the alter ego. Yes, that's right. Well, I had this whole thing where I wanted to acknowledge the influences I'd had. I wanted to pay tribute to these people who inspired me to become what I became. And that's the way this album started. And for me, it was fun to become somebody different and to put myself in their skin. And it's a way of escaping from myself, I think, and I really enjoyed that. Now, these tracks I put on the album, and I guess I've owned up to the fact that T.E. Conway was very closely related to me, more closely related than I let on at the time. But it was great fun to do that. I wanted to revisit the atmosphere of my youth, the 50s, when I was lucky enough to grow up with all those incredible influences, starting with Buddy Holly, Little Richard, carrying on with Jimi Hendrix and Mott the Hoople, who I was fortunate enough to tour with when we began. So it's a whole mixture of stuff. I think I'm trying to find myself, and I'm trying to find what went into building myself, and I'm trying to find a way forward to the light. As always, you know, the first album is Back to the Light. This one is also looking for those beams of light, looking for the optimism, looking for the belief that life is going to be good.
En el álbum también participa el genio de la batería Cozy Powell, que justo unos meses antes falleció. ¿Cómo definirías a Cozy como músico y como persona?
Cozy was a one-off in every way. He's one of the seminal drummers, one of the drummers who created rock drumming, along with John Bonham, Carmine Appice, I guess, Mitch Mitchell. Cozy Powell stands there as a giant creator of the style. And he also had an amazing physicality, and I mean a positivity. And for me, I'm a very negative guy, really. I'm a depressive. I don't find it easy to see the cup as half full. And Cozy always would come in and talk to him and say, "Look, I have this song. I don't know if it's going to work." And Cozy go, "Yes, of course it works. Absolutely, boy. I'll go in. I'll be hooligan." And Cozy was a force of optimism, a force of positivity. And of course, the downside is when he's gone, it's hard to find that positivity. Yeah, Cozy was a wonder.
En este álbum también participa el fallecido Taylor Hawkins en la canción Cyborg. Él se declaró fan totalmente de Queen siempre durante su vida. It's a really shame. Es una verdadera pena, ¿no, Brian?
Yeah, Taylor was very good for our egos and very good for our image, but he was just a wonderful friend. And like Cozy, he had this force within him of great joy and optimism. And we would talk often. I talked very often to Taylor. Only about a week ago I spoke to him, and he was saying, yeah, we're going back in the studio with Dave. We're going to make some more Dave music, you know. But of course Taylor was very creative, and he made his own music as well as the Foo stuff. And he was always inviting me out. He always said, look, you're sitting in London. What are you doing? Come out to LA. Let's play. Let's do stuff. And yeah, I'm going to miss those phone calls very badly. Bless him.
Se nota que tuviste que dar muchas vueltas en este disco, en este Another World, para conseguir un resultado tan redondo. Participa el propio Jeff Beck. Si tuvieras que quedarte con un guitarrista, ¿con quién te quedarías? ¿Qué sería de tu vida sin Rory Gallagher?
I guess I'm so lucky to have these people in my life who were heroes, and I was able to meet them and actually interact with them. Rory was one. I first saw Rory when I was a boy, just with dreams, and I went up to him and asked him how he got that sound on his guitar. And he told me. He didn't have to. I was just a boy off the street. But he spent time, was so kind to me. And years later, I would meet him and we would talk about that. And we'd talk about what happened in the meantime. He, I guess, also was a force. It's not just the way they play, it's something that they bring. It's the humanity they bring. And Rory was a beautiful human being. And I feel like I carry a lot of his spirit in me when I play. He taught me. He just taught me by being Rory Gallagher.
Te une un vínculo especial a España. Estudiaste en Tenerife, tienes tu estudio de astronomía en Tenerife. La portada de este álbum Another World es un árbol dentro de la isla de Tenerife y tú imitando la postura. ¿Es verdad que allí en Tenerife compusiste Tie Your Mother Down para Queen?
Yes, yeah, that's right. I was up in the observatory about 1960 or something, I don't know, 1965, 1970, and I was playing. I had a little guitar which I bought in the local shop, and I came up with this riff, and I thought, what shall I do with this riff? But I just enjoyed it. And when I took it home to the boys, I said, look, I have this riff, and the only words I can hear are tie your mother down, tie your mother down. And obviously we can't use that. And Freddie said, yeah, we can use that, that's good. And I started to understand that there was a reason for me having these words in my head, because it was a song about rebellion. But I was lucky enough to revisit Tenerife just a couple of weeks ago. Tenerife, the Observatorio del Teide, also La Palma, Los Muchachos, where I took the picture which is on the front of my album. So I made a pilgrimage, and we made a new video for the track Another World in the Canaries. So for me, it was such an emotional experience, and I wish I could do it every month.
Tras la pandemia, el primer sitio que visitas es Tenerife, ¿no?
We couldn't tour, I couldn't play live. I also couldn't get to my studio, so I was really stuck. It was a hard few months, and what I did was I took to Instagram as a medium and started to play, and people played with me, and we did this hashmark jam with Bry thing, and that kind of saved my spirit. I found that I could communicate with people and keep the music alive. I also got very sick, and I don't want to dwell on that, but I had a heart attack, which was very strange because I don't tick those boxes. I don't smoke, I don't drink really anything significant. I'm not obese, but I got the heart attack, and luckily I was in a position where I could get the proper treatment, and I'm good now. I've done fantastic amount of rehab, physio. I do my interval training every day, and I will be fit next month. June and July, I'll be fit for our tour, and we will be out there again doing Queen and Adam Lambert on tour.
Y cuando compones himnos para la humanidad como I Want It All o We Will Rock You, ¿piensas que van a llegar a tener tanto alcance?
As far as they did? I don't know. I don't think you ever know the future, and sometimes that's great. I think you can only do what's in your heart, and people feel that. I think people feel if you're being open and honest about what you feel. And music to me is a conversation. It's not just giving out. It's receiving and interacting. And Queen, since about halfway through their career, were very much about encouraging that interaction between the artist and the audience. So the audience become as important as the artist in the experience. So I'm very much with that. And to be honest, Instagram has given me that, because now I get feedback in a very personal way, and I enjoy that. Not just with musicians, but with artists and poets and people who make stereoscopic photographs, which is a passion of mine.
Otro sitio que conoces bien de España es la isla de Ibiza. Hace poco nos hablaba tu compañero Roger Taylor de aquella fiesta de cumpleaños de Freddie, del 40 cumpleaños de Freddie, con todo lleno de amigos, y cuando grabasteis allí en Ibiza. ¿Recuerdas aquella fiesta? ¿Recuerdas aquellas grabaciones?
Yeah, I didn't go. There was some reason why I couldn't go to this thing, and I was very sad that I couldn't be there. That's what I remember. Yeah, it was a difficult time for me. Many strange forces acted upon me, and I missed that, which I will always be sad about.
Hace nada nos ha llegado a España este libro, Brian May's Red Special, con esa guitarra, una de las guitarras, diría yo, más famosas del planeta. ¿Están aquí en este libro, Brian, todos los secretos de tu guitarra, de la Red Special? ¿O te has guardado
all the secrets are there? I have no secrets.
¿Te has guardado algún secreto para
No, no tengo secretos.
Bueno, ya sabemos que en junio vendrás a España, en 2 fechas, en julio, y podremos verte el 6 y el 7 de julio aquí en Madrid, en la presentación que hace mucho tiempo que ha sido atrasada por la pandemia. Hemos preparado algo especial con la guitarra, así que te esperamos aquí en RockFM. Yeah, one surprise with a real special.
Good. Well, I'm looking forward to it very much. Yeah, I can't wait to be back out on the road. And you know, there is a track on this album which I have done in Spanish. In English, it's Another World, but in Spanish, it's Otro Lugar. And in Tenerife and in La Palma, I was filming a video for the Spanish version as well. So I have a surprise for you.
Yeah. La película de Queen, el musical, está claro que Queen ha pasado a la inmortalidad, al igual que Freddie al Olimpo de los dioses de la música. ¿Cómo recuerdas hoy en día, en la actualidad, Freddie?
How do I remember Freddie? Well, so many things. He was a man dedicated to his art, without a doubt, and I think that was paramount in his life. He lived life, he sang songs. I wrote this little piece for his epitaph on the statue in Montreux, Freddie Mercury, liver of life, singer of songs. And that to me is the quintessential Freddie. And I think to put any other emphasis on it would have been incorrect. The film, I think, is truthful as regards his spirit and his quest and his path. So I remember Freddie as somebody completely individual, somebody who pleased himself, which I think is very important. He understood that people had needs, but he understood also that to function, he had to fulfill his own self. And I think many of us don't find that easy. Some of us are so obsessed with pleasing people that we lose track. Freddie was focused. He said, I need to do this and this and this in order to function and in order to give the world what I want to give it. He had very big dreams, Freddie, and he had a wicked sense of humour, which I remember. Always that little wicked smile.
¿Cómo es vuestra relación, la de Roger y tuya con John Deacon? ¿Ves capaz que salga de la cueva para juntaros los tres en algún momento encima de un escenario?
I think not. Of course we love John and we always will, but we don't have any significant contact with him now. That's the way he wants it. He wanted to cut that tie and to be a private person, and we have to respect that. I don't think it would be easy for John to step back into the arena that we inhabit. In fact, a couple of times we have asked him, but he always says, no, that's not what I do now. We have to respect that John doesn't want to do it. I think it would be difficult for him anyway, because things have changed a lot. And Roger and I have adapted a certain amount, We're still very old school, but we're aware of different ways of behaving these days, and different ways in which our art is channeled. No, I don't think that's going to happen, sadly. I'd love to say yes, but I don't think it would. It's possible that we could meet in some low-stress situation, I think, but in public, probably not.
Si tuvieras que quedarte con una canción de Queen para definir la carrera de la banda, sé que es una pregunta difícil, ¿cuál sería? Queen's carrera.
Yeah, it's impossible, really. I think the double header of We Will Rock You and We the Champions gets most of the public consciousness of the image of Queen across, but there are so many dimensions that I think it's an impossible question to answer. It's a good question to ask. It's not a good question to answer, because I don't know.
I know. El universo Queen está rodeado de grandes figuras, grandes amigos. Si tuviera que estar hablando de ellas, sería una entrevista interminable. Por eso te quiero preguntar por dos que no están hoy aquí y que estuvieron en el homenaje a Freddie. ¿Cómo eran David Bowie? ¿Cómo era George Michael?
They were both stupendous, and it's almost unbelievable to me that neither of them are still around. It's very hard to come to terms with so many of our wonderful peers having gone already. And of course, the young boy, as George Michael was, that was way too soon. The same as with Taylor Hawkins, it's very hard to come to terms with somebody disappearing when so much of their life is still ahead of them. But in the shows, they were great. I remember George Michael vividly. I remember just playing my guitar, and he's come on and he's doing Somebody to Love, and suddenly I'm conscious of this noise coming out of the monitors, which is his voice, and it reminds me so much of Freddie, and it's so strong and so beautifully musical, perfectly in tune, perfectly phrased and everything. And that was a real moment. I think George came the closest to kind of being Freddie in that moment. David Bowie was also amazing, and he came up with some surprises. We didn't know he was going to do the Lord's Prayer. You can see some shock on our faces when that happened. But it was great to see that, and great to see him do Under Pressure, which we'd never done live with him. Of course, Freddie never got to do Under Pressure live. And subsequently, some friends of ours, our video directors, made a video in which Freddie appears with David on the stage, and it was manufactured from separate appearances. But that would have been something to see. But the tribute was an amazing thing, amazing in so many ways, and it's kind of a miracle that we managed to pull it off. And all these wonderful people, our peers and our heroes, and people to whom Freddie was a hero, all came together to make this wonderful moment in time.
Has reconocido que pasaste un largo duelo tras la muerte de Freddie. ¿Ha sido el artista, ha sido el músico, Freddie, que más te ha impresionado encima de un escenario?
Well, we knew Freddie very well, as a brother. I think we were shocked the first time that we ever played with him in a lecture theatre in Imperial College about 1970, because he was a wild animal. He had all these dreams, but he would race around and scream and be very uncontrolled. And I remember Roger and I looking at him and thinking, is this really going to work? He is a self-made man. He worked on himself. He worked on his musicality, his instrument, and his contact with his public. And Freddie became, I think, one of the world's greatest frontmen ever. And it wasn't shocking to us. Freddie was our icon, and I was always very happy with that. It's me who put him on the cover of the Queen 1 album, because it was Freddie who was our image, our the prow of our ship, if you like. Yeah, so Freddie was, I got to tell you, Freddie was pretty exceptional.
Last short question. Sé que, no sé si escuchas bandas nuevas. ¿Nos podrías aconsejar 3 bandas nuevas para poder disfrutar de ellas en nuestra radio en Rock FM?
Yeah, Foo Fighters. Unfortunately, they're not probably young enough for you. I don't hear that much, really. I think I'm very old school, because I'm still immersed in the rock which formed me. It's hard for me to mention somebody from now. I'm aware, I always try to encourage people to do stuff. but there aren't any in my collection. There aren't any really very young bands yet. I think I probably have to change that.
Thanks for being here, Dr. May. RockFM is your home. See you this summer in Madrid. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless. Está prontito.
Nos vemos en verano.